Welcome YouTube, my name is Prunk, and this is how we fix Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, Pharaonic Guardian, released in July 2003, they bring us zombies, Gravekeepers, and a deck known as Pac-Man which dominated the playgrounds, just did not see much competitive luck, as players really knew how to side deck when going to big tournaments. This set is also, in my opinion, where beatdowns started to fall off with the help of Don Zalug, and we started seeing more hand control strategies to kind of dominate the competitive landscape. But we're not here to talk about the meta, we're here to fix the problems of Yu-Gi-Oh! A large number of them are zombie support, which is nice because we haven't really gotten to play with zombies too much. On top of that, we got our first real archetype called the Gravekeepers, which is an insane typing. It's a great archetype, and it has its long lifespan throughout the entire Yu-Gi-Oh series. There's not going to be much that we actually have to fix with Gravekeepers because they have done a great job keeping themselves consistent over the decades of Yu-Gi-Oh. So not much to really fix with those, but some things that I will want to really fix is things like Fuchio Richie, which is basically just a giant quest chain that you want to complete. We also get introducing to one of the coolest cards that's not really an archetype of the Dark Scorpions. And I really want to get into these guys because I just think they are so cool and so underutilized, but are featured in so many cards. They deserve their real archetype worked up. This set is mostly famous for what we have called Pac-Man, where it's a bunch of flip down monsters that flip when they're flipped face up, they all go into an effect. It is a playgrounds field day because this deck was really good in game one, and if you're just playing on the school grounds with friends with these kind of cards and that kind of stall and hit strategy, it was really, really good. Game two, if your friends knew how to side deck though, uh, it didn't go very well. So more competent gamers were able to kind of overwhelm their opponent with anything besides Pac-Man and usually close out games two or three. So it never really became meta relevant, but it was a really cool typing. And there's not much to fix because the deck is what it is. And again, we're not trying to make everything meta relevant. We are just trying to make sure that things are playable in the way they need to be played. So I got a couple ideas of what we can do with this set. A lot of the stuff here is actually good and doesn't require much, but I really want to get into two main things, and that is really the Great Dizard and the Dark Scorpions. All right, so let's look at Fuchio Richie. In order to do this, we need to look at Great Dizard, though. The card needs to special summon it. The Great Dizard is a 1900 tribute summon monster that says when this monster destroys the following number of monsters as a result of battle, the following effects are activated in order. Okay, we're basically creating a quest that needs to be accomplished for this card to get its main boss out. So as long as this card, so if you destroy a monster on turn one, you tribute summon it, bring him out, he destroys a monster. Okay, as long as this card remains face up on the field, negate the activation of all spells and traps that target this card and destroy them. Pretty good. It's a non-targeting. This card now becomes immune to targeting, and 1900 is nothing to really scoff at. It's a pretty good card. So far I'm liking that. That's fine. It can't be targeted. So what about its second effect? Well, if you destroy two monsters, special summon one Fuchio Richie from your hand or deck by tributing this card during your main phase. That that's pretty cool. I mean, like I like it. You do have this mini quest, and your goal is really just destroy two cards in battle with him in order to bring out Fuchio Richie. It's kind of like you're sacrificing your opponent's monsters to bring out this zombie god-looking thing. So you might be asking, well, why is this card bad? Well, it ultimately does take two turns to really resolve it. And granted, you are special summoning from your deck, so that is really strong, but 1900 is really weak, and it does require that tribute summon first. So it kind of takes, in a way, three turns because you have to have a monster on the field. It needs to survive on the field, and then you need to tribute summon it, then kill an enemy's monster just to get that one effect. And then it has to be safe on the following turn as well. So there is a lot of steps to this, and even in the early stages, this was just so slow in early Yu-Gi-Oh! And honestly, Fuchio Richie's effect is okay, but it's not really good enough for me to really want to justify playing this card compared to just other faster, stronger monsters like Dark Ruler Hades, or even Summon Skull, or Arginzo, like things that have that kind of protection that are strong, big statted monsters without having to go through all the hoops. So we want to make sure that it's really worth playing this tribute summon monster to get out another bigger monster that is a dead draw in hand. So the main problem is just it takes 2 turns. It is a really weak tribute, and its effect's so slow. So let's fix that, because a lot of people are just going to be playing Gemini Elf and other big cards that can just easily beat this thing over or crash into it if you need to. At this point, Gemini Elf is meta. So is Dark Elf is still around. Jirai Gumo, a lot of people don't like him at this point, but I still play it. So let's see. Here's my suggestion. So, in my opinion, let's lower his stat line. Let's bring him down to 1800 and make him like 1000 defense. He has to be a level 4 in order to make this card playable. It does make him more vulnerable to being attacked, but that's fine, because if you're playing this the way I want you to play this is going to be in more of a stall deck, and so hopefully you have good back row to protect him instead of having to rely on his effect to protect him. Now, you can even, I would personally just omit just this card cannot be targeted or something like that by card effect. If we drop this down, it's a little bit of a nerf, but you should be able to protect him. And since he's so much easier to summon, it does put us out on the playing ground a little bit more, where I might want to summon this more often, because an 1800 attack, he's still a good stat line. He just has to destroy 2 monsters to get Fuchio Richie out. But even if we keep this, his first clause of protecting himself, I think that's fine too. Because worst case scenario, he is a difficult 1800 to beat over. And we still have the 2-turn timer. But as of now, 1800 attack, it keeps his effects and stats the exact same. He's just now a level 4 1800 beat stick that can gain the effect of not being targetable, which is really cool, and can special summon this boss, Fuchio Richie, from the deck. So let's look at Fuchio Richie then. So he needs to be special summoned from the Great Dizard. I'm fine with that. Once per turn, you can change this card to face down defense position, and when it is flipped face up, you can target 1 zombie from your graveyard and special summon it. When a spell or trap card targets this card, negate and destroy it, and that is a quick play. So this is a really solid boss monster with a large stat pool. However, it has this other, its effect is similar to all the other Pac-Man cards. Flip down, flip summon, and get the effect. We should definitely make this the boss of Pac-Man, but so far, Des Lakuta, which is a great card for Pac-Man, is the only thing you'd really specify, because it has to target a zombie monster. So you may special summon a zombie monster in face up attack or defense position, or you can special summon a flip itself face down with its own effect. I wish that Yu-Gi-Oh played with keywords, because that's weird, but like basically you want to be able to special summon a card that can flip summon itself face down is the whole goal of this card. So I guess our official wording would really be, or you may special summon a monster that can flip itself face down with its own effect. It is hopefully not going to be messed with too many rulings. I don't think that would be a big problem with that kind of wording, but it is a really cool effect now. And now I can target Stealth Bird in the graveyard. I can target Lost Locust, or a Swarm of Locusts, Swarm of Scarabs, like all these cards that are coming out in this set. I think people will kind of paste together, okay, these cards have the same wording. These are the things I can do in this set. So, and it does kind of bring out other cards too in the future. It's not saying any flip monster effects. It needs to be able to, the card needs to be able to flip face down. And with that, I think that's how we fix Fuchio Richie and these cards, because it's a cool boss, and I just want to be able to play it in a little bit faster pace. And it fixes the biggest problem with Pac-Man of them not having a solid win condition, because this card is big stats, and if I am able to bring this guy out and constantly flip up things, well, control just got really good. Hand control has a competitor where you're trying to control the cards in my hand. Well, I'm controlling what's on the field. So I like this. It gives the Pac-Man type cards a lot better kill condition now, because we have this big statted monster that does special summon other things. So I think it's a powerhouse, and it could actually become meta contention, because this is a powerful card, all because we just lowered the stat points from and made the Grandmaster dude level 4 1800 compared to being a tribute summon. That's all we had to do to really fix this. And even if we do keep it zombies, I I think this card would be okay still, because Des Lakuta is still an amazing card that you're probably playing in this. But I'd really just want to keep it with the target monster that could be flip face down kind of thing, because it just fits the theme a lot more in this entire set, and it brings that theme all together. Some of these normal monsters are just bad and just should all be deleted. A 2200 wall on Molten is never going to be played. Molten Behemoth, Shape Snatch, and Soul Eater. Shape is another bad tribute. Soul Eater is an Earth Fish with 1200 attack, like not good. It's not gonna be even, it can't even be played in Yumi decks. So like, what's the point of these three cards? They all violate all these cards basically violate the rule we made in episode one. So we just have to like delete them or just adjust their stats. But nothing in here is good. I ban it. All right, so Dark Scorpions. Although not technically an archetype, the Dark Scorpions start to get some love here, being featured in many card arts. But honestly, only Donzalug is really the only monster that sees competitive play. Cliff the Trapmaster was placed in the side deck, but he doesn't really come out till Magician's Force for some reason, which is a couple sets away. And other Dark Scorpions like Chick the Yellow, Gorg the Strong, and Monet the Thorn come out in Dark Crisis, and technically, Don Zalug doesn't even get the title of Dark Scorpion, I guess just because he's the ringleader. Basically, the Dark Scorpions were kind of wronged, and we're going to move forward and give them the archetype to fix them. So, we basically have Dark Scorpion Burglars, a very weak stat line monster of the five of them working together, and Don Zalug in OG Pharaonic Guardian. Why is the five of them working together worse than if they were to go off individually? The stat line just doesn't really make sense. And their effect is just bad, where we're only milling one when every other one of them, when they're solo, mills two. Like, I don't quite get the concept of this card. And there's a lot of good spells and traps that kind of feature them but aren't technically Dark Scorpion cards. Timidity features Chick the Yellow. Mustering of the Dark Scorpions is a really good card that is actually for Dark Scorpions because it just lets you special summon out the others as long as you have Don Zalug, the ringleader, out. Needlewall features Zalug and randomly destroys a monster in its own. Trap Dust Shoot has Cliff and sees meta play for a good long time. But finally, we get Dark Scorpion Combination, which is awful. Like, you got five monsters out on the field, and your reward is dealing 2k damage directly. Heartland Draco does all that without the extra steps in the future. So there's a few things here that I really want to do to all these spells and kind of bring together the whole Dark Scorpion archetypes. But Burglars is the first thing that we're going to have to kind of fix, and here's my pitch. Now, we can actually push off when some of these cards come out, or wait for this card to be released later if we wanted to. But if we're introducing one Dark Scorpion and all these other cards, I think we should introduce them together as a typing. But Dark Scorpion Burglar. First off, it's a fusion monster. 2-star or two. This requires two or more Dark Scorpion monsters in order to special summon it. This card keeps the original names of the monsters used as a fusion summon. This card attack and defense is 1000 for each Dark Scorpion used for the fusion summon. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points, target a Dark Scorpion monster in your graveyard. Activate that monster's effect as if they inflicted battle damage to your opponent. So this card becomes a little bit more of a toolbox kind of thing. If you have other Dark Scorpions in the grave, this can be kind of subsidizing it. So like, let's say you used Don Zalug and Cliff together. Now I can choose to use like Chick the Yellow's effect or Gorg the Strong instead. So he's kind of a nice little toolbox to kind of give them that incentive. But also, this helps fix the Dark Scorpion combination where you don't actually need all five names on the field or five physical monsters onto the field. You just really need this one guy. Oh, I fused these three guys together, and then I get these two other cards back in. That's still extremely difficult to get off with Dark Scorpion combination. So like, we're gonna need to kind of work on that so we can actually achieve it, because it's still not a good. If you manage to get all five on the field, you should win. Period. Like, that almost should be its win condition. So with Dark Scorpion combination, if you control five different Dark Scorpion names, they can all attack your opponent's life points directly this turn. That is the ultimate fix for that card. The boss monster now gives you those extra names used for the fusion. It's got a good strong attack line as well. But in order to resolve combination, we just really need to pull off consistently. And in order to do that, we need to do Mustering the Dark Scorpion. So Mustering the Dark Scorpion, the fix here is just make it hand or graveyard. Don can still be a requirement to fit its theme. So like, Don Zaluk has to be on the field, but you can special summon all the other ones from your hand or graveyard. So if you manage to put them in the graveyard at one point, you can bring these guys out. And it's a really cool idea, cool archetype, cool theme. It requires Don Zaluk, your ringleader, to bring them together and this card, but it did require a lot of setup to get this all to work so that way they can all swing in heavy for game. But now you don't have to draft a bunch of different warriors into your hand in order to get this to work. Like warriors can eventually like when Rhoda's at 3, yeah, that's really good. But Rhoda being at like 1 or 2, and even if it is at 3 this early on, you're not really going to be able to do this. And I can't imagine it being pulled off super consistently to kind of overthrow meta decks in the time. Especially when it comes to decks that are in hand control at the moment. So hand control is going to be like the most popular deck at this point. So just getting rid of these cards from hand, putting them in the graveyard is still really good. We just need a way to recover them, and if this card is actively letting me special summon them from the graveyard, oh crap. But it has its counter. We have introduced Gravedigger's Ghoul, which is a quick play. We have Soul Release that lets me banish 5 on a normal. Like we're giving a lot of purpose to those cards that were good or like really bad by itself, and now the graveyard is more important, and controlling opponents' graveyards becomes a little bit better as well. We'll start to see Kaiku in the future, where I will make sure that I'm going to be banishing those graveyard targets because I do not want to get OTK'd out of nowhere. But at this stage in the game, there's just not a good way for me to draw all 5 different Dark Scorpion names and either put them in the graveyard or put them in my hand consistently so that way this card is live. And if I do, then I've earned the win at that point. It's very likely not going to happen on turn 2 or 3 for any time soon with anybody's deck. So if you think you could build this and kind of win in 2, 3 turns this early on with a limited card pool, please let me know in the comments. But I think that this is a good fix, and yeah, I'd be happy with that to fix like the Mustering Dark Scorpion card. A few things to mention could be like Timidity. Only change it I'd make would be while you control a Dark Scorpion, cards cannot be destroyed. Just to give it a little bit more of a theme again with the specific archetypes, you could splash this in other decks, but you probably wouldn't because this feels like it's just a cold wave in a sense. But it's a worse version if otherwise. I don't really know why you would play this in any other deck. But if you're at least playing Dark Scorpions, well now you can kind of just make it a little bit better. Needle Wall is it's Danzalug. So again, while you control a Dark Scorpion, choose the zone instead of it just being a random dice roll. Like again, just having that little bit more of an option where okay, I could splash this in other decks, and if you are flooding the field, then okay, it could be good in a dice random deck. But I want the control, so if I'm playing Danzalug, this card becomes a little bit better. Like I know they are featured in other cards in the future, and they could have bonus effects for Dark Scorpions, so you can still make this a really cool archetype for the people to explore. And just when they're featured in a card art, make them generic, where hey, these Dark Scorpions are recruited into my deck. Or if I'm playing a full Dark Scorpion deck, then I get some bonuses when I play these cards. And from here, there's just a few things that I kind of want to do quickly, and it's going to be kind of a little bit of a lightning round to kind of see if I can fix these as well. So let's see if I can get some extra fixes for this, because there are a few random cards that aren't really that good, and I'll want to kind of dive into. But let's see what I can do with a lightning round. All right, starting now. Joel of the Dark Demise. Level 1 Fiend, remove the flip effect, pay 500 attack to take control of an enemy monster. Makes it a lot better. Moisture Creature. Oh, that's a gross name. You may tribute this card. Tribute summon as many cards as you'd like to tribute summon this card. When you do, destroy spells and traps. So that way it doesn't have to be 3 tributes. Gora Turtle. Give it 1600 defense. If comboed with Legendary Ocean, this card can basically only be destroyed by card effect. It makes it a good stall. Pharaoh's Treasure, pass. This one's going to need a bigger explanation. Bicer Shock. This card shouldn't be a tribute. It's a level 2. Just make it that way. Cruel. It's Newdoria with a bigger defense stat. This card could be fine with coin flip decks, but still better. Yoma Ship. Again, it's just another Newdoria. Disturbance strategy shuffles their hand and they're to their deck. Let's do -1 as well, so that way they go negative as well. Pyramid. All right, so pretty good. I'm gonna finish this Pyramid Energy one. This one I would just say like 200 attack needs to be increased to at least like 500. It's just a worse rush recklessly, but overall we have this card already, so I don't even think it's worth playing. All right, last one I really want to jump back to is Pharaoh's Treasure. It says shuffle this card face up into your deck. If you draw this card face up, that was added to the deck by this effect, send it to the graveyard, then target one card in your graveyard except for this, and add it to your hand. It's a cool card. You're kind of shuffling this into your deck face up, and it is getting into the graveyard. It wasn't. It hasn't seen play because of how slow it is. But if you are playing a lot of draw things, then it could be good. Um, I don't really know if this card should exist in the first place. Um, I don't think I have a good fix for Pharaoh's Treasure. So let me know what you guys think in the comments because I would like to kind of keep something of like, oh yeah, you can shuffle this in. Maybe this could just be like a pot of greed where you have to. It's a slow pot of greed, and where you just draw two cards because I think this can be like you have to shuffle it in, and just to get a card from your graveyard again, I don't think that's good. I do think it could be cool if it's just like shuffle this card into your deck face up, and then draw two cards when you see it again. So I like that instead. That would be my fix, but let me know what you. So let's take a quick look at some cards that we aren't touching because they are pretty much meta. Uh, a lot of the things from here, Don Zalugas we kind of touched on, is definitely a meta player in GOAT format as we are starting to approach into that. Spirit Reaper has an entire format labeled after him. He is a phenomenal card, and I don't really want to touch it. It is a competitor now with Slime, like the Slime Defender that we set up last time. And we talked about Gravekeepers. Like, there's a few bad Gravekeeper cards, but not really. Cannon Holder has his own niche to it as far as just like a tribute fodder of Spy to burn. So you can play like a little bit more of a burn strategy. It's not the best way to play Gravekeepers in my opinion, but it's still a good setup. Now, there's some pretty bad zombies in this set, but like Poison Mummy is probably not going to see play. This is definitely a filler card. It does kind of work with the new Fuchio Richie or even the old Fuchio Richie. So that's kind of nice. Royal Keeper is good stat line with a good defense. I suppose this would definitely have its own niche as well. So if you look at like something like Dice Jar, then like that's a really cool card and it still has its niche. It's horrible, but it's a card. It's a luck-based card. They don't really give many luck support decks. I am eventually going to do a video on luck decks built right. Even with my own card game, I did actually have a pretty decent focus on luck, and luck decks are fine, but you need to have a way to force that luck to the result that you want. And Yugioh doesn't really do that, and I don't understand why not. So like even cards like Dice Jar will see play in the future with some stuff that I have coming out. Eventually, if you want to see those like luck-based decks, just let me know in the comments because I would love to do those too. Again, eventually I'm going to stop away from packs and then just go into archetypes and see how to fix specific things. But overall, just zombies and gravekeepers, I don't feel like they needed to be touched, whereas like the dark scorpions just don't really get the sunlight in any of this. So they're just never seen play other than Donzalug and maybe Cliff if you're lucky. All right, guys, that is going to close us out on Pharaonic Guardian. It's a little bit shorter of a video than I normally do, but honestly, with the Gravekeeper stuff in here, that was really solid. I don't really want to change any of the Gravekeepers. They all have their niche. There's a couple of bad flip effect monsters, but honestly, I feel like those were just filler cards that can't really be fixed, that they're just okay, and not really worth going into in depth. But guys, thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe. I've been loving doing this, love reading your comments. I am going to work on some audio issues because I know you guys have complained about that a few times. So I will make sure that in the future, I've been really focusing on the audio a little bit more. So thank you again. Appreciate it. Peace out.